Got it past the timing strike. Double team. Jalen Haynes off the step. He bobbled it. Far left corner three. Yes, sir.
We are Southern Illinois.
Steffi on the perimeter. Nevada, this ties their largest lead. Near corner, Stafford, three for the lead. Bullseye! Isaiah Stafford from the near corner.
It's time for Saluki basketball.
67-66. Stafford was zigzagging his way, middle of the floor. Hands off with House. House to his right. Right elbow. Runner, right side of the hashes. Ribs in. And a timeout by Southern. Kelron House. He's got 18 in the game.
Now, here is the voice of the Salukis, Luke Martin.
Saluki Nation, it's good to be back. Finally getting a podcast with the coach Rodney Watson. It's been a crazy travel week, and we get to continue that as we record this here on Sunday morning. The Salukis will be hitting the road again. We'll be flying out to Fargo, North Dakota here later on this afternoon for what will be another road challenge for the Salukis. But with the Hall of Famer Rodney Watson, I am Luke Martin. Woo, Coach, good to see you. I know you were able to get on that mower on Saturday. It was a gorgeous day. We've had some really nice weather here, and a lot of good things too. I know it was a disappointing result, one for Saluki football on Saturday in that 5 overtime game, and then the overtime effort for Southern against Nevada on Wednesday. But I think you and I both know, and as we talked about on the air on Wednesday, and since then, man, if Southern can build on some things from Wednesday, and we'll get into it a little bit more here in a moment, but I think there are positives for the Saluki basketball team and what we saw and what was a heartbreaker for them on Wednesday.
Oh, man, I kept saying toughness, Luke, before the game and when we talked on the air and so forth, and toughness carries you in everything in life, but certainly in sports. And I don't care what team that's won championships. If you go back and you ask any of the people involved in anything ever in time, when you have a championship ring, toughness is a part of it. Mental toughness, physical toughness. But, man, Southern showed some real impressive toughness in their preparation, in their execution of what they did. And now it's going to be consistency, being able to build upon all those things.
86-81 was the final at Nevada. As we said towards the end of the broadcast, it was a one possession. Southern never trailed by more than one possession in terms of a deficit until that overtime period, Coach Watson. But here to me is what is staggering. 24 lead changes. The game was tied at 15 different times. I was going through and looking at the data as much as you can. At least since 2018-19 season, Southern's never had a game where they've been a part of where there were 20-plus lead changes during the quarter. I mean, it was a really good college basketball game. There weren't a lot of mistakes that either team was. It wasn't like there were a lot of fouls, a ton of turnovers. Like, that was a good college basketball game on Wednesday.
I believe Nevada shot 33 free throws. Southern shot 29. You don't look at that. One thing we didn't, and you just mentioned it briefly, something we probably didn't give enough attention to. There were only 12 turnovers in 45 minutes. I mean, 125-minute game, playing time, 45-minute game in game time. Oh, Southern had 8. Man, you're going to live with 8 turnovers in any game. 72 possessions, I believe I had the count right in regulation. I kind of said this to you briefly. I've said to a couple people in between. One possession doesn't define you, but 71 possessions in a 40-minute game sure gives you an idea who you are. I like who we are. I liked the entire game, but it was a good college basketball game. Lots of lead changes, scoring guards, scoring bigs. Where would Nevada, if Nevada's in the Missouri Valley, where would they be preseason pick? It's going to be pretty darn near the top with the amount of talent they have on the floor. But, man, Southern really answered the call for the 40-minute game. And, overtime got a little weird and so forth, just a couple of missed possessions. But Southern has a lot to build on.
Ton to build on. And one of the guys throughout the summer that we were able to, I say pub up, I think the guys really earn their own publicity when they do well. And Kelron House was no question one of them. And I can remember having a lot of conversations with you during the summer and telling you, Arda, this guy's legit. I mean, he's got a chance to be an all-league guard. And you look at what he's done to this point, and of course, on Wednesday night, 22 points for him, 10 of 19 from 2. So a lot of 2-point shots, but man, he can make a lot of those mid-range shots. Also was able to chip in 4 rebounds, had seven assists, only 2 turnovers. Kelron really put this team on his back. And as we said on the air and asked him too, and I loved his answer to me, honestly, it was very short and straightforward. I asked him, what were you trying, take us through your thought process, that final possession of the game. And he said, get a shot to win it. I just love that was his answer. It was that simplistic.
And he went to his, what I call his hot spot. He went to that left side just off the block where he likes, he mimics his game after SGA, the great player, the MVP of the NBA last year from Oklahoma City, where he'll go down, he'll bump, make contact with his defender to get a little bit of space and be able to come back and just give enough of a fade where he can get clean shots off. He's got a beautiful approach to the game. But what I liked about that same answer, Luke, is there was no hesitation in his mind. He wasn't making something up because it was a radio interview. He knew what he was thinking. We interviewed him after an exhibition game early in the season. We asked him about his picking up his 3rd foul in the game, picking up his 4th foul. He knew exactly what he was doing. The other thing two things that impressed me about Kelron. One is the ball's on a string. I mean, he is a terrific ball handler. He's a guy that can go left and right. He can use his left hand. You say, well, of course he can. He's a college player on a college scholarship. Look, there's a lot of those dudes can still only go with one hand, and that doesn't make them not a good player, but this guy's even that much better. So, and I think about an interview question you gave Coach Nagy when he talked about Kelron's presence, and he just goes, man, when you've got a guy like him, it just takes one less thing off your plate as a coach, knowing that you can get the ball into your offense, which he proved that, and then, which leads into the second part. I was concerned with his physicality against Nevada. Nevada has big, strong guards, as strong as what Southern's going to see in the Valley, if not stronger. And whether it was Comer or Rollison or whoever it was, the physicality, he met that perfectly. He looks slight and slender, but he's sneaky strong, one. But secondly, on the strength part, he never got himself in foul trouble in the defensive end. I was watching the game thinking, man, Southern's got to have Kelron House in this game for an expended amount of minutes. We talked about that being a really key of who's got to have a big game. And I'm thinking Comer or Rollinson or whoever it is, Camper, they're going to take him. They're going to find this slender guard switched on him, take him down in that angle where they can create contact on the first or second bump, and there's going to be a whistle, and he's going to be out of there quick. Never happened. What a great sign for Southern at that guard spot. And then you've got Jalen House or Jalen
Haynes.
Jalen Haynes to come in and back up, and if need be, and you got Caden Hawkins as well. So Southern's in a good spot at that position on the floor.
Before we kind of get back to the rest of the team, I kind of want to break down the end of regulation with you. It's been a question that I've been asked by multiple of our fans, and I think it happens when, of course, the result happens and what it was, which Southern came up short. Many were like, hey, should Southern have fouled towards the end of regulation? And you and I both, we didn't bring it up on the air because there was just way too much time. And I know that's the answer, but kind of walk the fans through of when maybe as a coach you do think about fouling up 3, but Kelron House made his free throw at 19 seconds left. Camper made his 3 with 13 seconds left. That is an eternity in a college basketball game when you're only up by 3 points, R-Dub.
Well, and we can prove our point in overtime. 6 seconds is kind of the max number because if you get into a free throw shooting contest, which you elect to do, I think at the time that was in question, it was above 10. It was a 10, 12, somewhere in there. Way too much time. There were too many possessions left. And you can be trading, 2s and 3s and all that stuff off. But so 6 is, as a fan, you got to look, it's good basketball thinking, okay? It's good. That's what's cool about our game. There's a lot of strategy. And there's still strategy in college basketball. And it makes it even more fun to watch it that way. 6 is kind of the number. 3 is even a better number because if you've got 3 seconds on the shot on the game clock and you decide to foul down 3 or however that goes, just doesn't leave your opponent with an if you're up the 3-point number and you're gonna foul to get a 1-and-1 or the bonus 2. the obvious question is, can you block out and secure the rebound? Okay. Well, think about what happened in overtime. And I'll tell you, it was just another indicator where Southern's got a chance to have a really good team. So Southern's down. They're down 4 points, and there are 2.8 seconds, I believe, on the clock, and Jorge Marino gets fouled. And as soon as the whistle blows, I mean, it was on the blink of an eye, Drew Steffi is adamantly just huddling his team up. I mean, just like normally coaches are telling guys to huddle. Drew's not looking at the bench. He's just huddling his team up and adamantly saying, Jorge, make the first one, miss the second one, kick it out. We got a chance to tie this thing again. And that's the indicator on the Southern played it perfect with the exception of not covering that corner shot. They got a little turned around on that one, but man, all in all, what a really good game for Southern because you go on the road. The other thing is that Reno, and I'll say it again, Reno is a hard place to get to. People talk about, well, it's hard to schedule games in Carbondale. It's a hard place to get to. Man, it ain't as hard as to get into Reno, Nevada. I can promise you that because it's trains, planes, and automobiles, not to mention a government shutdown. But Southern really handled that entire process perfectly with the exception of maybe one possession.
You remember, I mean, of course, many times when you're a head coach, there's probably no better feeling I don't think every player on the team has to love their role, but it's about embracing their role and what their role could be. And as you know, as you go throughout a year, those roles will change. I mean, roles are not always defined, especially here on November 16th. As we talk, there's so many factors that can go into it, but and the reason I'm leaning into it is this way is I think of two guys specifically from the game on Wednesday that really showcased themselves in, all right, I'm ready, whenever that would be called upon for them. Davion Sykes one, Jorge Marino the other. And I didn't really think I did the best job on Wednesday and as we sit here and look at it, I mean, you look at what Jorge did. He had the highest offensive rating, according to KenPom, in the game at 184. He had 9 rebounds, 7 defensive rebounds, 2 offensive rebounds. He had 2 assists, had a block. But to me, what was most impressive about what Jorge did, along with Davion too, was his physicality at the rim was really impressive from a defensive perspective. And I think that's an area for him that, as we have talked in many conversations, the consistency in practice at times is what has held Jorge back. But man, when he shows that on every game day, if he can show that on a consistent basis, man, oh man, that is a guy that's going to be a problem.
He is bigger than everyone. I mean, like his it's not just the height part, the length part. He's got those things. He has got mass. He can move his feet. The thing I'm a person that's big on watching footwork. Guys that can pivot on both feet, especially in the low post. People don't really watch the feet. They watch the ball. They watch the hands. Jorge has got terrific feet. Let me back up a second. Let me add the third guy. There are 3 things that Jorge Marino, Davion Sykes, and Damian Mayo have in common. 3 things. Number 1, they're all coming off the bench. Number 2, they're all seniors coming off the bench. Now, those are big factors. And number 3, those 2 are obvious, right? The one that is a little subjective, but it's becoming pretty obvious, all 3 of them want to win. They don't really care what their role is. Man, when you get 3 seniors that want to win, what that does for your team is that tells everybody else in that locker room, those guys want to win. We want to win for them. It's just, you talk about a senior built team. I don't recall ever seeing 3 seniors that play such a critical role for this Saluki program as these guys might play for this one because of those factors. Back to Moreno, his ability to handle the ball in contact. He rarely gets rattled. He takes care of the basketball. Sykes is really figuring his game out, man. He knows that restriction arc is his best friend. If he can get there on offense or defense, rebounding, when that ball's alive, his ability also to pivot, a lot like Prince, who's another senior that has the ability to have great footwork. And then Mayo, same way. Mayo's realized, man, if I can get to contact, both in getting offensive rebounds or blocking people out. That's the other thing that the game was so fast, we didn't get a chance to really remark on how well our guys were blocking out, as well as I've seen a Saluki team do that in a long time.
10 offensive rebounds for Southern in the game. Nevada had 18. Their size was really impressive, but the Salukis did have 39 defensive rebounds compared to Nevada's 34. And that's one of the best rebounding teams in the country, as we were talking about. Hey, and into the game, they were out rebounding their two opponents, which granted, it's only 2 games at that point, now 3, but they were out rebounding teams by an average of 17 through their first 2 games, which was really remarkable. Kind of putting the finishing touches here on the Nevada game on Wednesday before we look ahead to NDSU. And should have said it earlier, but Dave Richmond's going to join us. He was able to sit down with you on a Zoom call, and man, he's as if we can have favorite coaches that we talk to outside of our own. David Richmond is one of them. It'll be an awesome conversation that RW had with him here in just a matter of moments. But as we said, obviously those guys from the bench having key roles. Isaiah Stafford, 14 points on the night, had 3 rebounds as well. Again, foul trouble for Isaiah, ended up getting fouled out late in the game. And as you said, Prince Aligbe made some tough shots down the stretch, but I think as everyone knows, and I know they're saying internally in the team too, look, shot selection no doubt is going to be huge for this team, especially when you get into those close games. And for me, that's what was great about the game on Wednesday was, as we said, it had a March feel to it. And everything is going to be overanalyzed in that terms of early on in the season. I think for all of those guys, it's really good film, to learn from, to watch and go, okay, we're in this position again. And you and I both think this NDSU team on Monday is a good team. They may very well be in this position again here in almost 24 hours on Monday night.
Yeah, that was what Coach talked to us after the game, and I really appreciate his whole disposition after that game. He's right. There are no moral victories. I mean, the number one objective is to have more points than the opponent. And he talked about, we got to clean stuff up. And you say, well, man, Coach, 45 minutes, you only had 8 turnovers. It's way more than that. It's shot selection. It's the fouls at the right and wrong time. Southern had, Coach is really big on not giving away free points at the free throw line. And the thing that I got a chance again, and I can share this, I don't think he would mind, but one thing I really enjoyed hearing him say to his team is this is going to be a really physical game. And if physicality isn't for you, then that's okay, but you got to come sit by me and someone else has got to come in. And then he said something that's really critical that you could tell his teammate, his team trusted him when he said this. I'll talk to the officials. You guys got to keep playing because they're not going to call fouls. And they're not going to call things that you think should be called. That's my job. And man, when I hear coaches talk, that's real coaching, man. When you remind 18 to 20-year-olds that are really emotional, that want to win, they're wanting everything to go their way. All of a sudden, they change the role of being the official, the coach, and the player. Coach just said, "Look, you play. Refs will ref. I'll coach, and then the refs and I will have conversation about whatever." Man, when I hear that stuff being discussed, and it's not being discussed on a lot of times, especially when you see guys continue to lose their mind in games, like, probably should have had that conversation in November somewhere.
Oh, never, Coach Watson. You've never been in that position before. Again, 86-81 was the final overtime loss for the Salukis on Wednesday night. And now we will turn our attention to North Dakota State and talk about a guy who has really done a ton of great things for NDSU. That's David Richmond, their head coach. Coach Richmond has been at NDSU for a long time. I mean, you talk about a guy who is true and true to the school. There is no question. He is a Bison through and through. You were able to catch up with him, I believe, on Friday, Coach Watson, just as we lead into his interview. What was kind of most impressive to you as you were able to sit down and talk to him?
Just like Coach Nagy, what they say is what they mean. There's not fluff. There's no nonsense. They talk basketball, and it's fun. For a basketball coach and basketball fans like Southern Illinois basketball fans, man, let's talk basketball here. If we want to turn to the comedy channel, we can do that, or we can get depressing news somewhere else. We can find that. But that's what I love about both these guys going out on the sidelines. They're very much similar in their approach to the game. He talked about he's got guys they want to be around, and that's not just fluff recruiting, simple talk. That's reality in this day and age. everybody wants to, you're willing to go into these type of competitive situations and sports with guys that you can trust. Everybody's going to do their job. And Coach Richmond's one of those too.
He's been the head coach at NDSU since 2014, 2015, but he has been at North Dakota State since his days as a GA in 2003, 2004. I mean, so over 20 years that he's been associated with North Dakota State basketball. Just a phenomenal guy, and he is next up on our Saluki Radio podcast.
North Dakota State basketball coach David Richmond joins us. Coach, thanks for coming on.
It's great to be on with you guys again. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. It means we're going to play a heck of a team again.
Well, we're watching your team, and the Salukis know that they're getting ready to go up against a good one. Coach, tell us a little bit about your team. You guys started the season off with a real test. I think every coach is trying to figure out themselves. You go to Oregon State, play them to one-possession game. Then you go play our friend Jim Less at California Davis. Came back from that. What encouraged you, even though you didn't come out of it with exactly what you wanted?
Well, I would say it was well before that. This is a group that's very, very enjoyable to be around. And in this day and age, when you're blending things really quickly, and you're taking a lot of unknowns, in particular in the spring with portal and junior college and things like that. You're trying to figure out what you got a little bit, but we knew early on we had a group that we really liked to be around. We thought very early on we had a group that had a chance to be better defensively based on our size, physicality, athleticism, and I think those two things have been very prevalent so far. Certainly when we went out west and Oregon State and then Davis, we wanted to come out with different results, but some encouraging things. I think we've played 8 halves of basketball, and for the betterment, we probably played 6 pretty darn good halves. The second half against Davis was disappointing defensively. The first half against CSUN the other night was, still a little bit of a feeling out process, and nobody wants to hear it. There are excuses, but there also the reality is there's just a lot of new, and the only way you can gain experiences, and I said this countless times, is to go through experiences. And guys are learning new roles. They're learning new situations. They're playing Division I basketball for the first time. They're playing Division I basketball for the first time in a couple of years. So we're embracing it all, but really encouraged to keep moving forward with this group.
You guys won 21 games last year. You guys are very much used to winning, certainly in the Summit. 2 things that stick out on your stat sheet right now, 4 games in, when you're 2-2. USUN, Northridge is a program that we have played in the past. That was a good win there. But 2 things that stick out. First, 37 turnovers in 4 games. That has to please a coach, because that's a stat that really helps you win games.
Yeah, and this will probably sound old and crusty here, but it pleases a defensive coach, because I think you got to be a very good offensive team from a value standpoint, taking great shot standpoint, to really get back and play 5-on-5 defensively and set your defense a little bit. And we are very fortunate in a day and age of turnover, and especially at the point guard position. We feel we got 2 dynamite ones in Andy Stefanowicz and Damari Wheeler-Thomas. And anytime you got guys that are going to have the ball in their hand that many minutes, it's encouraging that the way they've responded and done those things. And yeah, I'm not a stats guy at all. Probably should be more, but I knew it was good. I didn't realize we were under 10 a game like that, especially. CSUN is a longer athletic team. To go out west to play on the road with a new group. So something it's very, very encouraging. We talk, our values are defend, value, and finish. And so we're doing a couple of those things pretty well right now.
Well, one area you're finishing, and again, I'm not sure as a coach myself back in the day, and kind of curious to know what you say. You guys are shooting it blistering hot from the free throw line. I'm not trying to give you the broadcast jinx here, but you guys are really shooting well at the free throw line. That's another key area.
Yeah, well, and we didn't. Again, the exhibition games, we were at Minnesota, and then we hosted, MSU Moorhead of Division II right across the river, and we didn't shoot it very well. But we're getting the right guys to the line, and those right guys are doing a good job of getting paid. And hopefully that's a sign of, as we get more and more comfortable in our roles and situations, that, as we go beyond that free throw line, that, we're not shooting it wonderful right now from 3. And but we won 21 games last year. This team could very well easily win 21 games. I think it'll happen a little bit different. We're just built differently. I don't anticipate us shooting at the elite level that we shot at last year, but we will shoot it better, make no mistake about it, than we are right now.
This question is not trying to get some secret sauce to pass on to the Salukis. They've got to figure that out themselves. This is for young people who are watching this. Coach, what do you guys do in terms of teaching free throws, or how do you guys approach practicing free throw shooting?
Well, to be honest with you, you can practice it all you want, but if it's not purposeful, if there's not intentions behind it, if there aren't consequences for misses, if guys aren't focused in, to me, it's useless. And I think again, it's a byproduct of intentional practicing, but also it's the right guys getting to the line during the games. But I think the biggest thing is you got to give the guys credit. They're most coaches will tell you, and I shouldn't say that. I don't want to speak for most coaches. I'll speak for us. Is we don't spend a whole bunch of time in practice shooting free throws or even getting shots up. That's because we tell you in the recruiting process that if you want to be great, you have to work on your own as well. And so, a credit to our guys, they do a tremendous job of getting in the gym on their own and doing those things.
Do you like having more time with your guys in the 12-month calendar? And does that allow you, for instance, in shooting and tweaking, perfecting shooting technique? Do you feel like you guys can help guys in that respect?
Yeah. Oh boy, that's a loaded question. Do I
Yeah.
like it? I do like some of it, no question about it. You would talk to our soccer coach and volleyball coaches, and they wish they had more time. At times I think we demand too much of our guys' time and our staff's time, and there's just no real off switch with roster management, and then you get going right away in the summer, and then turn around and do it again in the fall. But yeah, I also think like no matter what it is, 8 hours in the spring, summer, fall, or 20 hours over the course of the season, that's not going to be enough to make somebody a good shooter to a great shooter or a poor shooter to an okay shooter. It's the guides. It's their our program and which we are proud of. We develop kids, but it's the kids who get the credit. They take the message, they take the resources and put in the work, and that's where the credit goes to the guys and their efforts to get into the lab, so to speak, as they call it.
I want to ask you one more coaching question. I promise you we'll get into your specific team, an area that I was at the Division II level, and we didn't have those hours in the summer. And in all reality, maybe to your point, less is more sometimes. But one thing
Yeah.
that we did when our kids did come back for a 5-week summer school session, they played pickup games. Man, I don't see many pickup games today. Is that something you guys are doing? Are we making a mistake with that?
I got enough gray hairs already, Rodney, for more pickup games. I do think it's important. I think it's way less important than I originally thought it was. There's some learning to play with different guys. There's some getting up and down, some cardio. I do think it doesn't resemble college basketball, and it lacks the structure and continuity. It maybe creates some bad habits at times. And so again, I sound like a politician here when you talk about the hours and open gym. There's 50/50, and I think it's like your diet. It's like anything how you live your life. There's moderation in everything.
Great. I really appreciate your candidness, and it's really interesting, one coach to the next, kind of where they are with the game today. Let's talk about your guy specifically. You've got a new guy by the name of Markai Strickland, and he's leading you in scoring, but he hasn't shot a three, which is interesting. He's shooting it incredibly well from the floor. What is he bringing to your team in addition to leading you in scoring?
Yeah, we're okay with both those things. We're great with him leading us in scoring. We're okay with him leading us in scoring and not taking threes. I think at role definition, whether you like it or not, is really important. And very proud of Kai, how he's embraced our situation and handled some accountability and some tough. But Mark Kai is a wonderful human being. He's got an infectious smile. When you step on the court, like he's just got he's got long athletic features. And he can really go. He's got good soft touch around the rim, and I still say this, and Kai and I are going to have a conversation tomorrow. There's still a way better version out there, and in some of those other things. So hopefully we can get there. We don't have an endless amount of time. Kai's got 4 or 5 months with us left, but he's a very talented young man, a very just a great kid. His character is tremendous, and he's got a pedigree. His father played in the NBA, and so that pedigree alone tells you the familiarity with the game.
Another guy that I personally want to know what you think of is Tay Smith. He came from Lenore Ryan, coached by one of my former coaches. How's Tay fitting in?
Tay's great. Tay is like it's Uncle Tay on the team. He comes in here and he's a little bit older, and he kind of acts like that. He's like the wise old man in a positive way. He's got a ability to be a great shooter. I think when you and I were talking earlier in this, he's still a guy that's finding his way. Sometimes, he defines his game if that shot is going in or if it's going out, and trying to tell him that's such a small, minute, and he's learning those things. And to Tay's credit, but also to Tay's, understanding is, it's happened quick for him. 1 minute he's playing small college, then he's playing, pretty high level Division 2. They had a lot of success last year, and all of a sudden now he's Division 1. And so, the speed and the length and the athleticism, no matter what, if it's JV to high school to varsity or, Division 1 to Division 2, it all changes from college to pro. And so that's part of that learning curve right now. But a wonderful human being, and I think he provides some, just some mentorship, so to speak, for our group.
Damari Wheeler Thomas was with you last year, but he didn't play. Now he's playing well, scoring the ball, handling the ball well, 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. What else is he bringing to you?
Yeah, he's just one of my favorite people to be around and to coach. He's an elite competitor, and there's no, like box score line for that. And I think that's the number one thing that's, he just competes so hard on both ends of the floor. I'm really proud of him. He's, is not coming out of high school was he can't shoot it great, and I think that's a false narrative now, and that's because of the time that he's spent in the gym. And the other thing is it just I'm a huge guy, and this might sound crazy. I'm a huge guy about like adversity. What kind of adversity have you went through? Because that's what life is hard. How are you going to respond? And he's on campus here for a couple months, and all of a sudden now he's got to put a rod in his leg. And in fairness to him, I don't think he ever got right. It just happened so fast, and we never practiced, as a freshman. All of a sudden, we're throwing him in. His first competition is, at KU. And he had some success. And then, that sophomore, he just never felt like he got right. So he and we decided to make the decision to redshirt him last year. And so, again, like we know what we have, and he has been around, to your point, around the program. But in fairness to him, too, he's still getting his feet wet again to be back on the court, to be with this group. And we're doing some new things, but really encouraged where Damari's at right now.
You mentioned Andy Stefanovic, a 6'2", another point guard. Man, it's hard to get one point guard, and Southern's got kind of similar situation. They got a couple of guys, and man, I've coached some teams didn't have any, and you guys are both in a good spot with that. But Stefanovic is really handling the ball, 5.5 assists a game. He's got to be a great distributor. What makes him to that type of player?
Yeah, excuse the analogy, but if we're going out to party, I'd rather be a case long than a drop short in the beer that we're bringing. That we do feel very good, knock on wood, at this point of the season where we're at with the point guard position. And Andy. I mean, you've been a coach and you understand it. There is and I hate the word comfort, but there is a security. When Andy Stefanowicz is your point guard. Now he dribbles more than some coaches would like, but it's different with Andy. There's always a control. His eyes are always up, and the way he facilitates, the way he makes others better, the way he competes defensively. He's a great rebounder for his size. When Andy gets on the floor, stature-wise, he's not the most imposing player, but you start to get going, and the pace that he plays with and the competitiveness that he plays with, man, he's just an integral part of what we're doing.
Travion Carson and Noah Federson seem to really complement each other. One is really tall in Federson, and Carson must be super tough. He's leading in rebounding. How do they complement each other, and how they really complement your team?
Yeah, I work for Tim Miles, and he always told me a junior college kid it's going to take you're only going to get about a year and a half out of them, and it just takes a semester. And we knew early on that we thought we had something pretty darn special with Travion Carson, and to his credit, he's been good. I do think, Coach, there's a lot better version out there when he gets his feet wet, when he's going from junior college. Again, we talk about the leveling up and doing those things. So, but what Travion Carson is he's a winner. He won a couple state championships in high school. He led DMAC to back-to-back national tournaments. So he understands winning. Part of him helping us winning is being a little bit more assertive, and he can do those things. And Noel Federson is that's a soft one for me, and because is someone that I've really been hard on, really, really challenged. And I think sometimes there's too much of a narrative out there of expectations for Noah and all those. He does a great job handling them, but Noah has taken some monster steps, early in this season of being more of that guy role. Last year it was Jack Simone. The year before it was Andrew Morgan. There was Grant Nelson and those guys that he's played behind, and he's certainly played roles in different situations. But again, in fairness to Fetty, he's playing more of the man role, and he missed some good looks and but the right looks down the stretch against Oregon State. But going back, we do the same thing because I think he's just got to go through those experiences of understanding that moment a little bit in this new role for him.
My favorite NBA team, the Pacers, got crushed by the Suns last night. And then I see Max Marley's with you, the son of Dan Marley, a guy that I grew up watching play a lot of basketball. What's Max's future with you guys? What's his ceiling?
Yeah, Max's future is bright. Max needs to catch a break right now. He's been banged up here with an ankle there and there, and he tweaked an ankle in the CSUN game, and we held him out the other night, so he's a little bit day to day, but wonderful young man to be around. Like, he's a fearless competitor. We were kind of going through the preseason, didn't know exactly what we had, and we went into that Minnesota exhibition game almost more like a closed door scrimmage, just to get a bunch of guys through, see what we were all about. And Max showed us something. He's a bigger body. He's been around the block. He's a physical, fearless kid. But I think right now things are moving pretty fast, and he's just needs to keep it simple and do those things. But there's a bright future just because of his infectious personality, the competitive nature that he has.
Every coach, every team, every fan base wants to go to the NCAA tournament. You want to get to postseason play and those sort of things. That's an obvious, but to do that, you've got to really have a great conference season. You guys are both you and Coach Nagy are getting your teams ready to go into your league. Tell us about the summit. Where do you guys fit in? What's your hope with conference play coming up?
Yeah, it's $1 million question. I think we're throwing darts at a dartboard right now. I don't know enough. What Scott would tell you, they got some returners. I don't know. The Valley, quote unquote, is a little bit ahead of the Summit League, but our league just, took a big hit in the spring, and we lost a lot of great players from a lot of good teams. And so I think there's North Dakota State head coach trying to figure out his team, and I'm sure, you go down the list of the other 8 coaches, and they would tell you the same thing. So I don't feel like at this time I have a great pulse or be a fair answer. Like, there's just so much new. I think you can bet on some programs. I think you can bet on some coaches that have been there and done that before. And but you're just seeing, like, they're just part of mid-major basketball, and it's the reality. It's just part of it right now.
Coach, I'll get you out of here on this one, man. When I was working for Bob Hansen at Nebraska Omaha, we went up to Fargo a couple times and came home in some driving snowstorms. Can you guarantee us the weather will be decent on Monday night?
Yeah, it's 95 and sunny all the time. I will tell you this, like, I was just with my mother for lunch, and it's 61 degrees here on, Friday, November 14th, and that is odd. We've had a few flakes here and there. But Fargo's a wonderful place, and part of it is because if you don't want to be cold, then don't come here. It keeps the riffraff out.
Coach, thanks for spending time with us.
Appreciate you, Coach.
Again, big thanks to Coach Richmond sitting down with our Hall of Fame coach, Rodney Watson. Okay, let's talk about the Bison now. And this year, Coach Watson and their group, so far this year, they have already played 4 games this year. They were very competitive with Oregon State. First game of the year on the road, lost that game by 2 points. Then they played at UC Davis on the road. This is a Bison team that's used to traveling a lot in their non-conference portion of the schedule. They lost that game by 12, but they're coming off back-to-back impressive wins. Obviously, a non-D1 win in their most recent one, and a 111-38 win over Scholastic. But they thumped CSUN, who you and I also thumped as well this year, 90-68. That game was in Fargo. But what kind of initially were your things that have stood out through 4 games for the Bison?
Yeah, let's go to that Scholastica game. That the Division III team out of Duluth, Minnesota. I'm not going to try to impress upon anybody this is a good team or whatever. They're a Division III team, but they're 3-0, and right now, what gets me about numbers after 4 games is that numbers can be skewed. 111, 38. How do you quantify any of that stuff? What really impresses me combining that game with the others is that they've only had 37 turnovers in 4 games. Now, typically even, in those lopsided games where a lot of people get a lot of minutes that they're not normally going to get, you're going to have bad possessions in those games. Sometimes those games really frustrate you as a coach in that second half. Whether it's that or Oregon State's 2-point loss on the road, this team takes care of the basketball. The other thing they do is they shoot free throws extremely well. Right away, I started thinking, okay, who's this North Dakota State team like? Because Southern beat them by like 25 a year ago. And I'll talk with Will Beasley about this as well, about, how do you get your team, forget about your fan base at this moment. We all think, well, this is a team, we're going to go up there and beat those guys. We handled them easily last year. Hold your roll. This is a Northern Iowa preparation game. These guys play like Ben Jacobson's team. They take care of the basketball. They value the ball. They have a bigs. They have several bigs. They have forwards. They have very good guards. Like Southern, they got a couple of impressive point guards. So this is a team that's a senior team as well, a veteran team, even though they're led by a junior college player in Strickland, getting them almost 16 points a game. But this is a team that knows how to play. This will be a very tough contest for the Salukis.
They attempt a ton of threes. You look at their style components on KenPom, almost half of their shots are from three-point range. Now, it also does not account their non-D1 games on KenPom, but right now, take out that Scholastic game, they're only shooting 19% from three in their Division I games. That's 361 in the country. That's very, very low. From your vibe, Coach Watson, from what you're able to get from Coach Richmond, is that something you think is going to continue? Is this going to be a team that's going to shoot a lot of threes?
I do. I think that, and I think Feddersen, who's 1 for 11, is a guy that you can't get worked up about his early stats, because he's a guy who can, especially at home, he can do the pick and pop thing. And with his length at 6'10", he's a much better shooter than what he's shown. Coach said the vibe with Coach is, he goes, I'm not worried about it. We're a good shooting team, and that doesn't bother me. And that's basically what shooters want to hear. They want to make sure Coach is still on board with me, because, percentages have a way of working themselves out, and it comes back to shot selection. And I know, just like with the Saluki program, they're really big on, this isn't over democratic on everybody gets to shoot wherever they want, whenever they want. And they know where they're going to shoot shots from. Southern's got to defend really well. Like I thought last year, I thought Southern was one of their best defensive games, where they challenged and they were physical with this North Dakota State team.
Damari Wheeler-Thomas, we've seen him before. He's been at NDSU for multiple years. Now being a junior, came into NDSU in 2023. Just what impresses you about Damari Wheeler-Thomas, who is a guy who's got experience playing there for the Bison?
He can score it. He can handle it. He's a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio guy, but he's similar to Kelron in some respects. He's probably going to play more of an off-guard role, where he's going to get the first catch rather than make the first catch. But a year ago, he had a rod put in his leg, and so he's a guy that really appreciates having a second opportunity to play basketball. There's nothing fun about those injuries, man. Those are the ones you think to yourself, am I ever going to get to do this again? I think he's someone that really appreciates having a second lease on basketball life.
Yeah, you talked about that. He missed the game last year with SIU. He was not healthy enough yet to play. So he did not play in that game. And as we described, and Coach Nagy did to us as well in that game, when you look back to last year for NDSU, that was where they were just going through a lot of travel. That was actually part of a 3 straight games on the road. They were in California. They were coming back from the West to the Midwest in Illinois. No one in that game for NDSU scored more than 9 points. It was a really tough shooting game in Banterra last year. 69-44 was that final. But as you and I kind of both described here, if Saluki fans are kind of thinking that that's the expectation here coming on Monday, I think they really need to recalibrate.
This is going to be a tough game. As I alluded to earlier, this is a warm-up game for what's going to happen against a very good Northern Iowa team later on in the season. This is the type of approach. I love the way Southern's traveling in this game. They're going to charter, which means, if you do this one by bus or commercial, you better leave a week in advance. But Southern's doing all the right things to get themselves prepared. I think it goes back in line. Why do you play Lindenwood on the road in exhibition? Well, I said all along, teams have to learn how to play on the road, and that's what Coach had alluded to with you. And there's a lot to be said about that. And if you're going to win the Missouri Valley Conference, you got to win on the road. You got to know how to play and approach the game on the road. Again, going back to last week when you and I are around and we have total access to this team, that's I so much appreciate it. We get to see what's expected, just how you approach these games. And man, I've been fortunate to be part of a bunch of really good teams at Southern, and the really good teams had this same approach, this mentality of what you do on the road.
Of course, the Bison, they are used to winning in the month of March. 7 Summit League tournament championship games is what they have been to. 18-8 record under head coach David Richmond. When it gets to March, that dude finds a way to get his team in position to compete for that auto bid in the Summit League, which obviously Southern's already seen Kansas City from the Summit League this year. Well, that's going to do it for our Saluki Radio podcast preview of the North Dakota State Bison. It's hard to believe that we are on to yet another game, and it will be on Monday night, Saluki Nation. We hope you join us for the coverage on Saluki Radio, which will begin at 6 o'clock on Monday night. Tip-off will be at 7 o'clock from the Shields Center there in Fargo, North Dakota, which, hey, why not go back to Fargo, Coach Watson? Already been there once. It's just like we had our South Dakota treatment last year where it felt like we took up residency there between football and basketball for about a month. So now we just get to make that return trip to Fargo here.
And Coach Richmond, he guaranteed us 95-degree weather. So, what's better? Bring our golf clubs. Let's stay a while. Fun times in Fargo. Last time I was in Fargo was in, I believe, 1988. Came home from a snowstorm. So who knows what we're going to find in Fargo.
Yes, you never know exactly what you're going to find in Fargo, North Dakota, especially once we get to the later stages of November. And it's going to be my first time for a basketball game in Fargo since I was at Indiana State, went there, and Coach Schertz's first year. And it was a really entertaining game. NDSU got the win 77-70 on that day as well against the Sycamores. That was in December of 2021. So again, for the Coach Ronnie Watson, the Hall of Famer, I am Luke Martin. We will talk to you Monday from Fargo, North Dakota. Saluki Nation. Go Dogs!
This has been Saluki Royalty, the official podcast for Saluki Athletics. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review however you listen. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Saluki Sports Network.